Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us for today's Spotlight series, highlighting our petroleum engineering graduate certificate and master's degree programs. My name is Erin Tanaka, and I represent the Viterbi Admission and Student Engagement Office within the Viterbi School of Engineering. And I'm very excited to have with me today Professor Raja Shaghi, who will be available to chat about all the different programs offerings that we have, as well as be available to answer any questions from the audience. So let's go ahead and get started. Just one quick note. So throughout the presentation, we do encourage you to ask questions. So for those of you that are joining us live during the session, please use the Q&A panel to the right, and we will get to your question as soon as we can. If it pertains to the full group, then we will be able to answer that aloud. Otherwise, if there are a little bit more personalized questions, I will be able to answer that at the end of the session. In addition, for those of you that are attending today, you will receive a follow-up email, and that email will contain the slides of the presentation as well as some important links as well. So for today's program, I will start out by talking about the USC Viterbi School of Engineering. I'll then talk about the master's and graduate certificate programs in petroleum engineering, but that really will be where Professor Shaghi will be talking and providing more details about those individual programs. We will also be going throughout the session some frequently asked questions, including questions about Jenna Viterbi, which is our online delivery method. And at the end of the session, we will also have a Q&A with Professor Shaghi, who will be able to answer any additional questions and commonly asked questions as well. So a little bit about the University of Southern California. So we are the oldest private university in the Western United States. We were founded way back in 1880. Currently, we have 46,000 students, and our graduate student population, we have over 26,000 graduate students. So as you can see there, they are a large part of our campus. We have over 4,700 full-time faculty members, which does not include many of our adjunct and guest lecturers that come from a variety of different industries and backgrounds and really bring their experience to the classroom. We have a very diverse student population, so we have students from all over the nation, of course, as well as multiple countries throughout the world. And so we have students from all different walks of life that you would be able to interact with. And we are located in Los Angeles. So for those of you that may not be familiar with the Los Angeles or California in general, we are, as our name says, located in Southern California. We're about a 10 to 15-minute drive from the downtown Los Angeles area and about a 45-minute drive from the Silicon Beach area, of course, depending on traffic. But really what that means is, we have access to a variety of different companies and organizations that are always looking to hire students. But beyond California, USC is very well known to be so connected throughout the nation and throughout the world with partnerships and connections, and so there's no shortage there as well. So specifically about the Viterbi School of Engineering, we are one of the oldest and largest schools within USC's campus. So we are comprised of 8 academic departments, one of which is our family department of chemical engineering and material science, which also includes our petroleum engineering degree programs. Our student population, we have over 5,400 graduate students. That does include our PhD master's students, both online and on campus, as well as our graduate certificate students. And we are a leader in funded research. So we have over 35 research centers. And so there are all different kinds of exciting research opportunities available. And if you have any questions, I'm sure Professor Shaghi would be able to answer any questions about research opportunities. But we will be focusing today on our master's degree and graduate certificate programs, and we'll go over, what that curriculum entails in a bit. Our faculty members, we have 189 tenure-track faculty members. We have 33 National Academy of Engineering members, which is one of the highest honors you can really receive as an engineer, and Professor Shaghi himself is one of those awardees. And we also have over 90 National Science Foundation Career, National, and Presidential Young Investigator awardees as well. So in terms of the rankings, so we are overall considered a top 10 best graduate engineering school for 2021. And so, and specifically, we are proud of the fact that we have consistently ranked a best petroleum engineering program by U.S. News and World Report. So currently we have the number 8 spot, but it changes year by year, but we are proud of the fact that, our petroleum engineering degree programs are top-notch, and that has to do a lot with not only the caliber of our faculty members, our students, the support that their students receive, amongst many other things as well. So now I want to introduce you, Professor Dr. Raj Ershagi. He is the Omar B. Milligan Professor and Director of Petroleum Engineering for the Mark Family Department of Chemical Engineering and Materials Science. He's the Executive Director of the Chevron USC Center for Interactive Smart Oilfield Technologies, or CSOT. He's also the Executive Director of UKC, the Center for Research and Education. And as I mentioned before, he is a National Academy of Engineering member. So with that being said, I'm going to turn over now to the frequently asked questions that we have that Dr. Ershagi will be able to answer. So first and foremost, what petroleum engineering graduate programs are offered by USC? And could you explain the differences between the specializations offered?
So thank you very much, and welcome everybody. The USC's program is one of the oldest in the country. We started in 1937 because there have been a lot of activities in California, and the USC's program was to accommodate the educational need of the people who were working in California. Now our graduates are all over the world, in many oil-producing countries, and we have, of course, some of them who ended up with essentially assignments in academic institution or research institution, depending on the degrees they earn. And since our focus is on a master's in petroleum engineering, I should mention that we are one of the unique schools that offers a specialization in different areas. The digital oilfield technology that started in 2004 is really the oldest and the only program of this nature worldwide. And that was thanks to the center that Chevron established at USC. So many years ago, when people were not thinking about digital oilfield, we were incorporating discussions and content with respect to the data sciences and machine learning and AI and all that in our program. So we've had many students who actually selected this as an option. Since the activities grew in the area of unconventional resources, we also responded to that by starting a program on geoscience technologies. So the graduate in this area, they get a specialization and technical skills to work for companies that are drilling in unconventional resources. But we also have a very unique program, which is called Masters in Petroleum and the Masters in Engineering Management. So this is a dual degree. That means if you go into this program, you actually get 2 master's degree, and then that's also very popular. On top of that, of course, we have the conventional Masters in Petroleum Engineering, and the only really difference is that the courses you select as elective, and again, you have a wide choice of courses you can take in that area. But there are many people who actually work for oil companies or energy companies who already had a graduate degree and they just want to get a certificate, and we provide that. So we have the university certificate. These are formal degrees that you can get in digital oilfield technologies, unconventional resources. So that usually requires about 12 to 14 or 15 units of coursework, and depending on the background, you may or may not have to take some deficiency courses. All right, so that's really a summary of what we have for the master's program. Now, the requirements are that we have 6 courses that are considered core courses, and these are reservoir engineering 507, and numerical simulation 508, well testing 517, enhanced recovery 531, and well completion 555, and transport and ports media 582. So these are the core courses. Now the elective courses has to do whether you want to specialize in digital oilfield technology or unconventional resources, or you want to have just a regular degree. And then, so we have a wide choice of courses that you can take to satisfy the elective courses. Okay. Now, for instance, if you want to go into geoscience technologies, in addition to the core courses, the other courses that you require would be things such as 502 reservoir characterization, 503 technology and conventional resources, 504 geophysics, and then you also have a choice of taking either 505 inverse modeling or 572 geostatistics. But as you notice, the first part of this still includes the 6 core courses that I mentioned earlier. Next, next one. Okay, so if you go to the digital ocean technology, you still have the 6 core courses, but in particular, the courses that you take in terms of the digital technology will include the 586, 587, 588, 589, and you can see that these courses cover issues related to data mining, the use of artificial intelligence, machine learning, and also issues related to visualization. And we also have the 587, which is the smart completion, and this has to do with the use of digital techniques in terms of recording information that come from different branches of a given well. So this is usually what is required. On top of these specialization courses you take, you may have to take 1 or 2 additional elective courses, and of course we have listed for you things such as 502, 511, 514, 502. So these are all courses that are available. If you look at the catalog or a list of the courses, you can see all of the options you have in terms of electives. Next one. So if you want to go into the engineering management, as I mentioned, you satisfy the requirements for the master's in petroleum engineering, and you also take some courses in engineering management. And those courses are listed, ISC 500, 515, 544, 561. And the topics is there, statistics, engineering project management, and managing or leading engineering teams and economic analysis. And of course, you have some electives you have to satisfy in engineering management, but this is actually a very popular program because you get 2 degrees in a matter of 2.5 years, depending on what your background is. And then, of course, we work with you in terms of the electives you can take. And many of the students who go to the engineering management, actually, for the elective part, they take courses related to the data sciences. Next one. Okay. Now, if you want to go to the certificate program, then you're primarily focused on these specialized courses, 586, 87, 88, 89, and the titles of these courses are listed. And so, again, we will work with you to make sure that you get adequate introduction and expertise in these areas related to the data sciences. Again, that is becoming very popular because most of the energy companies and oil companies are beginning to go to a transformative stage where they can use more and more of the digital science technologies. Next one. And if you want to get a certificate in the unconventional resources, then the courses are listed for you. 2 of them, 502, which is the advanced reservoir characterization, 592, which is the geomechanics are required. And the other 2, it can be among the 3 courses, 503, 504, 572. You can take 2 of these 3 courses. And again, we'll work with you and making sure that you have the adequate preparation to take these classes. Next. So, as I mentioned, we have a long list of graduates from the department who actually went into business. I mean, John Moore himself, who actually the benefactor of our department, we call it the Moore Family Department, is a graduate of 1972. Of course, he got a bachelor's degree, and later on he finished his master's degree. But he went into the business of production, and then because of the interest that he had in USC, he contributed a lot, not only in naming the department as well as creating a whole bunch of scholarships. But on top of that, we have people who are engaged in oil and gas business. Um, we have a number of these people who've already moved up to the ladder of CEOs and CTOs. and they are contributing to the school. And then we also have people who are in the international scene. For instance, the senior vice president of Aramco now is a USC graduate, and the president of Aramco Americas is a USC graduate. And so they are all over the world. And then, it takes a pleasure to work with them. And occasionally we have alumni program, and we are very amazed of the progress that these people have made. Many of our graduates and the PhDs, of course, have ended up working for universities, and they have advanced to the rank of professorship, and they receive all kinds of national awards. But the majority are actually working as oil field workers. Of course, they have advanced project managers, and then and they, some of them work in California, and some of them, majority are in Texas, and then many of them are international. And some of our graduates are actually finishing up their degrees while they're having an assignment in an offshore platform. I think that this is really exciting, because when you have some free time on your hand, you can still, using the distance education network of USC, actually complete some of the requirements that you have. So we're very proud of the accomplishment of our graduates. And one thing I should mention is that our graduates, whether they're actually connecting with us through the den or in person, they get a special attention, because USC is a private school, and we try to provide for them that added dimension, which is a mentorship by a professor. And so they get tremendous amount of support and help in terms of career selections, and in terms of connections, and we help them a lot in terms of networking with the industry professionals. Now, some of the changes that's happened in the emphasized area is that, in the past, of course, the focus was production of oil and gas, and which is, significantly important part of the energy sources that we use for transportation. As a matter of fact, it was because of the discovery of oil that we ended up having a liquid for transportation, and of course that prompted the advances that we saw in aerospace and in automobile transportation. But these days, on top of that, we're seeing a lot of interest in terms of using subsurface, the pore structures that we have in geologic formation subsurface, using it for storage. This either the storage of the waste, or storage of carbon dioxide, or even storage of compressed air. So we are working actually a new initiative that will provide an opportunity for converting excess power from renewable and making it compressed air and storing in the subsurface reservoir. This is really new, and USC has a leading edge in that area, and some of the students are actually working in that area. So we can see a transition taking place that would make it possible for the wells that are destined to be abundant, that could, rather than being abundant, could be used as conduits to reach to the subsurface reservoirs for storage purposes. So any type of specialization that has to do with the subsurface storage and subsurface management of the resources, whether it's for production of resource or for storage of resources, gaining some ground, and this is becoming of interest to many of our graduates. Next one.
And Professor Shaghi, I do have a related question here from the audience. So the question is, how do you foresee the number of petroleum engineering jobs within the next 5 to 10 years?
So we went through a very difficult period last year that affected all of the industries, and all of a sudden transportation went down because people were not driving. But if you look today, actually, at the news, you can see that Hart publication actually has as a piece of news that the demand for oil is going to grow, because all of a sudden now the driving is back on. So by the time you look at it, at what the demand is going to be for the oil and gas in terms of transportation fuel, you can see that we're going to get back to where we were. And of course, the oil companies that were depressed because they couldn't just sell the product, and they're going to be energized. And so what I see in the next several years, actually, we are getting through this period, the difficult period we all went through, and we've seen an upsurge in terms of employment and in terms of opportunities. I should mention, by the way, that among all the degrees that you can have in engineering, the petroleum engineers are exposed not only to the basic sciences, physics and chemistry and math and all that, they get, familiarization with the chemistry and chemical engineering and issues related to the mechanics far more than many other engineers do. And of course, with the inclusion of the data sciences, they also get expertise on that. From that point of view, many of our graduates for the last 2 3 years, where they had difficulty finding job with the oil companies because oil companies were not but did not have a good market essentially to sell their product, they actually went to other industries. In fact, one of our students just recently, instead of working for Google, because you develop expertise, it's not just your degree, it is the expertise you develop. As long as your GPA is good, as long as you have competency, that there are other companies that are looking for engineers that will hire you. So we can see a tremendous increase in the employment in the oil business as well as in other industries. One of our graduates actually gave a talk about a month ago, Leland Char, and then his indication was that he's working for a consulting company because that's what he needed. They needed him. So you shouldn't feel that with any degree that you get these days you're limited in terms of opportunity. Almost any engineering company looking for talent, they see talent in you, they will hire you.
Great. That is very insightful and very helpful. Thank you so much, Professor Shaghi. So now I'm going to go on to next question, which is, can I pursue a petroleum engineering graduate program online? And so as mentioned before, actually all of our petroleum engineering degree programs, including our grad certificate and master's degree programs, are offered online, which is great, especially for those of you that may be working professionals and need that flexibility. Or, if you're just wanting to pursue your program from essentially anywhere in the world, we're seeing a number of students, all over the world that are pursuing their program online. And so in terms of your course delivery method options, so you do, of course, have on-campus full-time opportunities. And so typically, our students that are on campus, they tend to take 2 to 3 courses per semester, just depends on, their workload. And they tend to take 1.5 to 2 years to complete their degree. In the case that you would like to complete a degree in 1.5 years, typically that does require classes during the summer, but you would have all of our students have an academic advisor that they can work with to, determine the pace of their program and, which courses they would need to take in order to complete within a given time. In addition, of course, as I mentioned, we do have our online delivery method, which is called Den of Viterbi. I'll talk about that in a bit. But because the large majority of our online students are working full-time, they do tend to take 1 to 2 courses per semester, but it's flexible. Not everyone is working full-time, so that's, that is really up to you. But typically, we're seeing on average, our Den of Viterbi students are graduating about 2.5 to 3 years, but as long as you graduate within 5 years with the ability to even petition for additional 2 years, it is flexible in how you pace your program. So how Den of Viterbi works. So Den of Viterbi, we recognize there's all different, online programs out there. And so, we existed well before, online delivery was even possible. We've actually started almost 50 years ago, back in 1972, before there was, the World Wide Web, back with, video recordings that would be sent to company sites. But now, we have over 40 graduate programs that are offered fully online. And so the way that Den of Viterbi works is that we are, it is our own, USC Viterbi's own proprietary web-based delivery system that is unique not only to, in the online world, but also within USC as well. And so we have been really a leader in terms of, the model for how we work. And so the way that it works is you can watch the lectures live as they're happening on a normal basis on USC's campus. Hopefully very soon we will be back on USC's campus. But the great thing about that, of attending live, is that you're able to call in during the live lectures. You can also ask your questions via the chat similar to this this session. But, we recognize that you maybe aren't able to attend the live lectures, whether it's a different time zone or conflicts with work or life schedules. So you're also able to watch the lectures asynchronously. So each of the lectures are recorded. They then go into the course recording archives that you have access to after the lecture until the end of the semester. And so you have that flexibility to watch it on your own time that's convenient for you. In addition, if you are located somewhat near the Los Angeles area or ever visiting, California, Southern California, you do have a seat in the classroom as well. You have access to all the same resources as all of our on-campus students. There's no difference there. Really, our Den of Viterbi students have just even more support because whether it is for exam support, so we have a dedicated exam coordinator that ensures that if you're not in the Los Angeles, Orange, or Ventura counties, in those cases, you would take your exams on USC's campus. But if you're outside of those areas, our exam coordinator will assist with finding a location that works most convenient for where you're located. In addition, if you ever travel for work, she also assists with, can also assist with finding a location that is outside of your normal area, as long as you give her enough time in advance. But for those of you that may be undecided in terms of whether you want to pursue your program online versus on campus, the graduate program admission and required materials is exactly the same. When you're applying for a degree program, you're applying for that degree program, not the delivery method. And so, as I mentioned, our Den of Viterbi online students have essentially 3 options for watching the lectures. Those that are pursuing the program on campus, they are expected to attend their lectures on campus, and they do have access to the course recordings, but there needs to be at least one Den of Viterbi student in the classroom. But in terms of assignments, exams are exactly the same. Courses per semester I talked about, degree completion requirements is exactly the same as well, 27 to 37 units with a 3.0 GPA or above. And because, there's really no difference in terms of the program, in terms of homework, assignments, exams, graduation requirements, et cetera, you're earning the same exact degree, whether you earn the degree online or on campus. There's no distinction whatsoever that you would be an online student or an on-campus student, same degree. So another question is, what are the application requirements as well as tuition and fees? So the application criteria for graduate programs, so it is important that, each of the graduate programs, you'll want to take a look at the application requirements as well as eligibility requirements for the individual programs. But this is, the general application criteria. So an undergraduate degree in petroleum engineering or other engineering, math, or art science with assigned prerequisite coursework from a regionally accredited college or university is required. So, in terms of the GPA, so while a GPA of at least a 3.0 on a 4.0 scale from a regionally accredited university is recommended, it's not required. So if you have less than a 3.0, doesn't mean that you would not be admitted. We just encourage you to strengthen your application by including the supplemental materials such as your resume or CV, which is required, personal statement, and then letters of recommendation, in which 3 letters are required. Also, for those international applicants, you would also need to meet English proficiency requirements, which could include the TOEFL exam as well. In terms of the GRE, we get this question, of course, a lot, but the GRE, due to the current challenges that the pandemic has really faced, has presented to so many of us, the GRE is actually not required for the fall 2021 term, and it is to be determined for future terms as well. So, but I will be talking about the deadlines shortly as well. Actually, next. So you would also want to make sure you confirm the application deadlines. So I did mention fall 2021. For on-campus students, the scholarship consideration and deadline has passed. However, we do have some more flexibility for our online Den of Viterbi applicants because we actually do not grant student visas. So it does give us a longer time frame to process your application. So if you are interested in applying for fall 2021, please be sure to reach out to me and my colleague Megan Balding at denofviterbi.usc.edu. We do, as I mentioned, have flexibility. So we do encourage you to reach out to us if you'd like to still apply for fall 2021, which starts in August. In addition, if August is too soon to get started, we have spring 2022, which starts in January of next year. The scholarship consideration deadline, and that's for on-campus students, is August 31st. And the final deadline is going to be September 15th of this year. And again, if you ever get close to, for those of you that are interested in pursuing a program fully online via Den of Viterbi and don't require a student visa, always feel free to reach out to us via email in case you are wondering about a possibility of a deadline extension. So some additional information. So in addition to being able to apply for formal admission, we also have the limited status enrollment option that allows strong candidates who have a cumulative GPA of at least a 3.0 on a 4.0 scale that have an undergraduate degree in engineering, math, or arts science from a regionally accredited university to be able to begin coursework before applying for formal admission. But it is limited in the sense that you have a maximum of 12 units you can take, and limited status does not guarantee formal admission. So you still have to apply for formal admission, but it is a great way to get a jump start in taking courses as early as this coming summer, which starts in May. So in order to get started, we do encourage you to complete the Den of Viterbi profile to see whether or not you are approved. It typically takes a few business days, so it's a pretty quick process. In addition, we do have the employer reimbursement deferment program. So this is for those individuals who are working for a company that pays their tuition, but it allows you, rather than paying out of pocket before the start of the term, it allows you to defer your payment of up to 90% of your tuition until after the semester is over. So if this applies to you, we do encourage you to go to the link provided there. As I mentioned earlier in the presentation, I will be sending a follow-up email with a copy of the slides for those that are joining us today. So you will receive that the links to all of this information through the presentation shortly. In addition, we do have the Den of Viterbi Scholarship. So this is a merit-based scholarship that is awarded to outstanding students who are pursuing a master's program fully online via Den of Viterbi. So they are partial scholarships that range to one to 4 units of tuition, and it is for those that are not fully funded or receive no funding whatsoever from their employers. The funding is awarded during the academic year, and you can actually reapply each academic year for future scholarship consideration and receive it more than once. The deadline to apply for fall 2021 is going to be July 22nd, and it is a separate application from the admission application. So you would need to go to the link provided there for more information about the Den of Viterbi scholarship, as well as other scholarship offerings that we have for our master's students. In addition, we have Chevron USC Partnership Fellowships. So these are fellowships that are awarded to outstanding incoming master's students. The award amount is $25,000 paid over multiple years, and continue contact with Chevron executives with opportunities to have future internships and employment. So it is a great opportunity beyond even the financial benefits. To be eligible, you must be either a new or a progressive degree program student, full-time residential on-campus master's students. 2 scholarships are awarded to students in the Master's of Science in Petroleum Engineering, Digital Oilfield Technologies, as well as one to a student either the MS in Chemical Engineering, MS in Material Science, or MS in Materials Engineering degree program as well. You must have a cumulative undergrad GPA of at least a 3.0 or higher on a 4.0 scale. You also must be a U.S. citizen or permanent resident of the U.S. or its territories. So again, if you have any questions about this scholarship and fellowship opportunity, as well as any others, we do encourage you to visit our scholarship website for more information about the individual scholarship. So to get started, we do encourage you to, for those of you that are interested in getting started as an on-campus student, while our campus is not yet quite open for on-campus activities, there are some going on, but we do encourage you to visit us virtually until campus is fully open, and to get a tour of what the USC campus looks like, and also, of course, start your application for formal admission. For those that are interested in taking courses online via Viterbi, you can also, we encourage you also to apply for admission and also get started as a limited status student if you'd like to do so this coming summer, which is really just around the corner, starting in May. Okay, so now is an opportunity to ask your questions for Dr. Shaghi. So I'm going to start with a few that are here. So the first is, what research programs and fully funded opportunities are offered for international students?
Actually, majority of our PhD students and many of our master's students are international. A PhD, of course, anybody who's accepted as a PhD has a sponsored project, and so they're fully funded up to 4-5 years, and then there's no problem with that. For master students, if we see some talents in you in terms of a good performance and a good GPA, usually after the first semester, we get you engaged into doing some work, either working on some of the projects that are going with the PhDs or independent research. And I have many students actually who are working with me, and I'm actually paying them hourly. We cannot hire you as a RA when you're a master's student, but we can pay you hourly if you work on research. So many of the good students working with us actually end up with good publications, which is very good on their resume and basically job hunting. It gives them the distinction. So yes, definitely. As long as you do your share in terms of maintaining good GPA, I, as a director of program, go out of my way making sure that we provide some support for you one way or the other.
Great. And, similar question, is it possible to do any sort of directed research as an online student?
Yes, as a matter of fact, I have a, it's interesting you asked that question. I have a student from Kuwait who's actually, I've never seen personally, but this person is actually doing research but she's actually in Kuwait. So there's no problem with that. As long as you're in the program, you've had the proper background, usually after one semester, I think we know what kind of a talents you have, and we can assign you. No, there's no problem doing that.
Great. And then another question we get is, is it possible to do a thesis? And if so, how does that work?
Well, most of the engineering students these days don't go for a thesis, and USC, that's an optional. So if you decide to go on a thesis basis, you take a course related to thesis, and then you submit, whatever you worked on in the form of a thesis to the school. That takes a little longer, maybe an extra semester. But our approach has been, at least in petroleum engineering, is that as long as result of your work ends up into a publishable paper or paper presented at the conference or something, I think that's good enough. Most of the companies take that very seriously. So that's what we focus on, because the topics are changing, the focus areas are changing, and by the time you want to get out, what's important is that what you can present at some local professional society meeting and all that. So we emphasize directed research, 590, but we do have a few students who are actually working on thesis. So that's their option.
Great. Another question is, if we get a lot of times, if a student does not have a petroleum engineering background, are there specific courses that they need to take in order to fulfill, prerequisites or anything like that?
As a matter of fact, many of the employees that work for oil and gas companies who actually come and do a master's with us, they don't have an undergraduate degree in petroleum engineering. They have undergraduate in computer science, in mathematics, in geology, or whatever. So these are non-majors. So as long as you have an undergraduate degree in some physical science or engineering, you have no problem. Now, in terms of deficiency, normally what you take is 411X, 412X, and 461, and the petroleum geology. But we work with you, and then if it turns out that your math background is not good, then you got to take an advanced math course. So just depends on an individual basis. We would tailor the list of the deficiencies to make sure that you have the adequate background to handle the graduate courses.
Great. Well, I think that that is all the questions for today. So, for those of you that are joining us during this live session, feel free to continue asking any questions you have. But if you can't think of any right now, that's okay. We do encourage you also to email us with any other follow-up questions after the session. Of course, those of you that are watching this recording, please feel free to email us. If you're interested in pursuing your program on campus, please email viterbi.gradadmission@usc.edu. If you're interested in pursuing your program online via viterbi.usc.edu, again, goes to myself as well as my colleague Megan, and we always strive to respond within a 24-hour period. On normal business days. Also, if you'd like to schedule a phone call with us, we do encourage you to email us, and then we can schedule a time that works best for you. But I wanted to say, thank you so much, Professor Ashagi, for all your insights. It's very helpful, and I'm sure, the audience really appreciates that. I'm seeing some great thank yous already. But thank you all also for joining us for today's session and taking time out of your busy day. I hope to hear from you soon, but take care. And as we say at USC, fight on.
Thank you.
Thank you.